Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a podcast where we talk about music that we share with each other as friends in a circle of sharing. I'm Peter Ray, your man with no plan. Here with me, of course, is my team, my squad, my crew. We've got Brett.
Ooh, ah, 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 ah.
Yes. We've got Drew.
Oi, oi.
And we've got Patrick.
Nah.
Of course, we're here to talk about music. We're gathered.
Yes, we are.
We're gathered. I'm just confused by something, but yeah, we're gathered here to talk about music. Talk about some of the things. Talk about an album that we've been shared by our friend here. I'm like confused. Okay. We talk about an album. I'm mainly being distracted by the fact that I'm trying to figure out something with the recording and audio stuff. But we're talking about an album provided by one of our friends, my crew, my team. It's going to be provided by Brett. Brett, what do you got for us this week?
Well, what I've got for us this week is an album by the band NoFX. It's probably their more well-known album, Punk in Drublic. A blast from the past.
Yes. Yes, this is a really cool album, and we're excited to talk about it. Let's talk about some expectations. Patrick, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I think we probably established this the last time we listened to NoFX, but like, I'm aware of them and I've listened to some of them, but they were never one of my bands from this era. I like a lot of NoFX adjacent bands. I feel like I'm more of an Epitaph guy than a Fat Wreck guy, even though this album was technically released on Epitaph. But I knew what I was getting into. It's NoFX.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
It's an album I listened to. I sort of knew exactly what I was getting into. NoFX was a band that I listened to a lot, and this is sort of their like really biggest album, I would say. It's the album with the quote unquote hits, as much as you can have being a band like NoFX. But at the same time, like, I knew all the songs on here, but I never listened to them in order. So that was going to be an interesting thing.
Yeah. Yeah. This is an interesting album, and this is an album with songs people that like them and like these bands know, but maybe there's some out there that haven't actually listened to this whole album, so it's gonna be cool to discuss it. Including me, I don't think I've actually sat down and listened to Punk in Drublic at all either. Brett, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes, elements that describe it?
Well, it's kind of a weird thing. This album was like it's NoFX's like best-selling album, and it peaked. It charted. It reached number 12, which is noteworthy because this album had zero radio or TV play whatsoever. So it's kind of weird. It's pretty much regarded as like peak 90s. I mean, there's some garbage from early on, and then there's some stuff that I didn't like afterwards. But like, if I were to pick one album that would sort of sum up like what you would get from a mid to late 90s NoFX album, this has got it. It's vulgar, anti-authoritarianism. You came for a punk rock album, that's what you're gonna get. It also has some like social commentary, some 90s punk rock humor, and ballads. It's kind of weird.
Ballads.
Yeah, I mean it's a song that tells a story in a way. So I mean, it's letter of the law. But it's it's basic punk rock. I mean, the punk rock drums do the NoFX punk rock drum thing. Like, this isn't an album where you really get to see the bass work. I mean, there's little bits, but Fat Mike is doing other things on this album. You get the two guitars harmonizing. That's kind of a thing. I'll get into that when we get into songs in particular. And also, they've got a goof song. Every punk rock album from this era has a goof song or two. It's a punk rock thing, I guess.
NoFX are the masters of the goof song. You would say.
They've got a P.
I would say
Yes.
roughly 30% of any given NoFX album is goof song.
Yeah.
Or drug
Some
songs.
of them are goofier than others.
Yeah.
But
Goof songs or drug songs or goofy drug songs.
Yep.
Patrick, how would you describe this album musically?
peak NoFX. The things I sort of was drilling in on is I love NoFX guitar tone because I love Mesa Boogie amplifiers. I think that's really what it's coming down to. It's this really like slightly compressed, super smooth overdrive, and I like the way you have two guitar players sort of intermingling that. They're better guitar players than I think one might expect for a kind of, I don't want to call them a shitty punk band because they're kind of a good one, but like from like just sort of your middle of sort of a punk band that was like this popular and sort of important for the genre. The drums are NoFX drums. They do a thing. It's every, like, the only way I can describe NoFX is like, if you hear a NoFX song, any one of them ever, it sounds like a NoFX song. And it's not any one bit. It's not just Fat Mike's vocals. Also, in this band, I feel like there's other people who can sing better than him, and yet he is still the lead vocalist. I don't understand that, but it happened.
He owns the record label too.
And I guess he writes
I mean,
writes the words.
He writes all the songs.
Yeah, but like it everything sounds exactly like NoFX. And it's like down to like the drums, the way the guitar sounds, the vocals, and just sort of the way the songs are built. But also like this is kind of probably their high point in terms of like bands usually start somewhere, they kind of grow into something, they peak, and then whatever happens after that gets a lot harder, and most bands don't do it well. And this is sort of right at the peak.
Yeah. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
This, like Pat said, this is definitely like NoFX doing the NoFX thing. Which like this is sort of where they really tighten. Like to me, Punk in Drublic is peak NoFX because this is where like they sort of solidified their tone and their style. It's a snarky attitude. It's a curled lip and a lot of punk beats. It's blasts you pretty quick with that sort of stuff. There, every once in a while in some NoFX songs, there's some horns, which happens. They are from California after all, and they came up in the 90s, so therefore you had to have horns. It was a law in California.
Yeah.
But even with that, there's a couple of songs in here that dip into like the reggae ska thing, but that lets Fat Mike sing more, which I don't think is where NoFX shines. I think NoFX shines more when they're doing like the fast bar chord skate punk sort of thing, just hitting you over the head. The makeup of the album at times, like I said, I've never heard every song back to back, and I literally put in my notes, putting Jeff Wears Birkenstocks and Punk Guy like literally right next to each other, where it's like, oh, you just did 2 back-to-back songs about like punk rock stereotypes and shit, didn't you? It's kind of something I may maybe separate those types of songs a little bit. Think about the but it's a punk rock album, so like who really gives a shit? Like you're nitpicking about a punk rock album. It's a snarky punk rock album. Like it is what it is. Like you going into this, we sometimes say they're softballs, and I feel like Brett's throwing an underhanded pitch over the plate with this one because it's like, oh well, yeah, it's a NoFX album. Do you like NoFX as a band? Do you, like me, not want to listen to their more political stuff? Then Punk in Drublic might be it, because you get a twinge of that at times. But it's not completely Fat Mike being like a nihilistic butthole about things and hating everyone. It's you get just enough anti-authoritarianism without a lot of man, everyone sucks,
Yeah.
which I think is great.
Yeah.
Which I think is
It's a NoFX Ask NoFX album, which I think it would nicely sum it up as. Let's drill down.
What if I want to drill up? What if I want to drill up?
You'll have like rocks falling on your head.
I just want to mill something. I don't need depth. I need width.
Yeah. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks to zero in on?
Well, I mean, this is one of those albums. I mean, this ain't Fleetwood Mac. We're not going to be like, oh, hey, the song where they did the thing. It's kind of a simple punk rock album. So, like, it follows a formula. I think the formula became the formula, quote unquote, after this album came out, and other people did this too. But, like, this album opens up, and you're expecting a punk rock album, yes. But, like, they actually wrote an opening track that, you know, kicks off a pretty loud track in a loud way, sort of, you know, transporting me back into my, you know, teenage BMX riding shitbag years. It's very much that sound. This is also the soundtrack of the skate park in the 90s. If you ever went to one of those places, like you would hear the dulcet tones of one Fat Mike. Also, this album can be dumb as hell. My Heart is Yearning. You know, it's 90s as hell, and it's a goof track, and it has wah trumpet and steel drum. Yes. Like that is the most punk rock of all punk rock.
It rhymes yearning with burning, and I'll leave the rest up to your imagination.
It's very 90s. There's parts of this album where you're like, man, wow. Also, as brought up before, Jeff wears Birkenstocks, a jaunty song about hippies. It's catchy and it's dumb, which are two of my favorite things about punk rock. You know, yeah. And Rico, the last half of this song is like it's like a view into the future, because NoFX came out with this 18-minute magnum opus called The Decline, and it's kind of a neat like CD. It was just that one song on the disc, like, but it was clear all the way to the middle where it had like a tiny CD's amount of like CD writing on it, but there was a kid holding an airplane, and it was kind of a neat little thing. But like, it sounds, you can tell a lot of the same way that they harmonized the guitars when they're playing rhythm. This sort of fattens things up when it's a very, very simple, like, this ain't musical gymnastics. It's fast, and that's that's the hard part. They're not really reaching for a lot, especially in this song at that point. So they fatten up the sound, and you know, they do stuff. So if you want to do some extra credit, listen to The Decline. But it's pretty much the sound of this just for 18 minutes. But it's very noteworthy because this was the sound that I was into, and was the sound of my shitbag punk rock years. So, but like, there are other songs that people have heard. You've probably heard if you casually listen. But these are the ones that stick with me.
Yeah. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
The Cause. This is just kind of the NoFX's NoFX song in some ways, because it's made out of snark, and it just works in a weird way, and it's kind of enjoyable. Jeff Wears Birkenstocks, a profound song about trying to get along with hippies. I liked that. Punk Guy, because entirely for the just very concept of someone crazier than G.G. Allen being presented. That if someone is, I don't know how they live long enough for anyone else to meet them.
He'll puke on you. He'll fuck your mom. He'll smoke while huffing gas.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just, it's that. And then my favorite song on this album, The Bruise, because let's write a song about a violent gang of Jewish fellows. It's basically a song about Inglourious Bastards, but it is. And I don't know if somewhere else in his career Fat Mike topped this, but there is more Yiddish in this song than any other punk song probably ever, unless there is a punk band that sings entirely in Yiddish, which is a thing that might exist that I'm unaware of. But like, it's a, I don't want to call it a joke track, because it's kind of like, nah, this is a thing that should exist. But but it's really good. It's fun. It's got gang vocals at the end.
Yeah.
I really like that song. Is the best song.
Yeah. He should be on the cover of Punk and Disorderly. I
found a band.
Yes. Drew.
Do your own homework, people.
Drew. What would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, it leads off with Linoleum, which, like, looking at the wiki, I was surprised that this isn't considered a single, because, like, Linoleum is what I think about when I think about fucking NoFX. It is a 2-minute classic about, pretty much, I think, Fat Mike's favorite topics, which are normal trappings of punk rock, nihilism, and, getting drunk. To be fair, I'll skip over to Jeff Ware's Birkenstocks because, like I told these guys before we started, apparently a song about making fun of your workplace coworkers there. Kind of exactly what punk rock is all about. Like, fuck it, I'm just making fun of people loudly, and that's just what I'm gonna do. And then the Brews. Them Brews sporting the anti-swastika tattoos. To make an oi song that a genre that gets a bad rap because of an oi song. Oi, I should say it correctly. Oi with the fist in the air. To make an oi song which gets a bad rap because of the bad people in it, just like skinheads get a bad rap because of the fewer bad people in it. It is what it is, but it's turning that on its head. Like, nah, they're the Jew oi guys. Like, that's, look, I like dumb oi songs. Like, give me like The Business singing about BS and I'm all for it. Which, by the way, rest in peace, Mickey Fitz. But it's something that I can always get behind a dumb chanty oi song. Nice. Gang vocals all day.
Oi song.
Oi.
It does remind me of the fact that around the holidays, we had a lot of decorations around work. Somebody put up a sign that said "Oi to the world," O-Y, and it may have gotten like a little post-it note, put O-I, exclamation mark, and put it over that Oi. It didn't last long, but it was just kind of like,
Hey, Haji was a punk.
That's just like any other boy. Didn't want any trouble until he started up his oi band. Yeah, so cool. This is just amazing. Yeah, The Bruise is a fantastic song. I also wanted to shout out Lori Myers, and the guest vocals on that one was really cool. Just kind of like a little like departure, like hearing somebody other than Fat Mike singing on this record. As much as we love Fat Mike.
Again, I don't even think he's the best singer probably in this band, and yet.
No, El Jefe's better than him, but that's not the point. That's not punk rock.
That's not NoFX. NoFX is not about good singing.
No, there is a band for you if you like this and don't like his singing. It's called Be First in the Gimme Gimmes.
Yeah,
but someone better sing.
Yeah, but they're playing other people's dumb songs.
Yeah.
Yes, which is almost better.
Their own dumb songs. And I like that.
You're not going to look at me and tell me that Me First in the Gimme Gimmes isn't fun, Brett. Come on.
Yeah, but it's not Fuck the Kids or, Fuck the Kids.
It's a different kind of
fun.
All right, let's bring it back around the horn. Talk about some conclusions. Patrick, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
I don't think I'm ever going to love NoFX, but I will always enjoy some NoFX. It's one of those bands where they're not my particular thing from that era, but I totally understand why they are other people's. They have a thing and they do it well. And this is a really this. If you're curious about NoFX, this is a great jumping off point. And I would recommend listening to it.
Yeah. Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album?
NoFX is one of those bands where, like, if you haven't heard them by now, like, I don't know what rock you're living under, because I feel like they're everywhere, and I don't know if it's because of the bubble I'm in, but like, they're just one of those bands that, like, I feel like most people, like, if you say like, oh yeah, I like some punk rock, you've probably listened to NoFX by now. If you don't know if you like punk rock, this is a really easy way in because it's pretty much like, hey, this is what kind of like the mid to late 90s punk rock became, was like this and some Lagwagon and some Pennywise. Like, you can just shove those bands at people and be like, hey, if you like this stuff, you'll probably like 90s punk rock, and then they can like go for the rest of it and figure it out. So if there's that, I really enjoy it. I think it's probably easily my favorite NoFX song. But song album. But at the same time, like, I get why people maybe don't like it. It's a little brash and in your face, but that's kind of what punk rock is, and I think that's okay sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, like I said, I'll repeat again, a NoFX Ask NoFX record. It is a nice cross section of what you to expect from NoFX. It's their style that encompasses like the different directions they go with their style, especially when they went in the specifically in the 90s. A couple songs that I enjoy and I've listened to. A couple, like one of them specifically, I've listened to a few times, and I've definitely enjoyed this record. I don't think I will ever need to go and sit down and listen to a NoFX album ever again, but they're always going to be an ever-present force in my. I want to listen to fun punk music or fun like 90s music, or for fun music from a certain time or place. Playlist, and they will be a welcome present and an important present in that playlist for me, just like playing in the car or, playing, at home when you just kind of want to jump around to some fun music. Because it's NoFX are that kind of a place in my life and a piece of my music listening experience. But yeah, last word, Brett. What would be your conclusion on this album?
Well, I mean, this was the album that I wanted to bring because it is probably the most approachable, and like there is some change. Like if you listen to stuff from like S&M Airlines is different than the War on Terrorism, or White Trash, Two Heaves and a Bean is a little bit different than Heavy Petting Zoo. This is pretty much a nice little mid ground before they got old, and we're also of a certain age, and I would imagine that like unless you were like, there may be a chance that some youngins are listening to us, which we are not a family friendly show, but and neither is this. Neither is NoFX.
There's not any chance of that.
Yes, there's one kid in like in Mongolia who's a big Record Breakers fan, but no, like this is NoFX. Like if you don't like it, there's cat hair on my mic thing, and it looks like I've been like doing some coke, but I just have a cat hair up my nose. Sorry, all of the children that are watching. But no, like this is an album that had direct effects on other like adjacent music genres, like the sound of the pop punk is a lot of using the formula that NoFX brought to us, just making it be tolerable for parents.
Yes.
They're or going the other way. Yeah, this is this time. There's a lot of shit going on at the time this album came out, but like this is a pretty good taste of what things were like back when I was a young man.
Yes. Yeah, NoFX. Those are our thoughts on Punk in Drublic. Now we get down to it, to our main event of the evening. We get to our haiku reviews. We get to sum it all up in poetic formats. It's gonna be a fun thing. Let's get to it. Patrick, what would be your haiku?
Fat Mike and the Boys. Exactly what you'd expect. Jewish gang content.
Drew, what is your haiku?
A punk rock classic that is an easy listen. Stereotyping.
Yeah. All right, my haiku. SoCal punk legends, doing what makes fans love them, and all for the cause. Brett, what is your haiku?
A personal pick that hit me at the right time. I still like this one.
Yeah. We all like this one. And good reason, because it's a fantastic record. And, of course, those are our thoughts on Punk in Drublic by the band NoFX. You can, of course, find this album on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers the home game. Follow along at home. Presumably on that Spotify playlist will be next week's record, and it's going to be provided by Drew. Drew, what do you got for us next week?
This is a band that was actually semi-forced down my throat by my sister. My sister kept telling me, hey, you should probably listen to this band. I think you're really going to enjoy them. And usually my sister doesn't suggest bands that I will enjoy. She's really hit or miss for me. But I ended up listening to a couple of the songs from this band and ended up really enjoying it. They're a band out of New Jersey. It's the Gaslight Anthem with their album Handwritten.
So you can look forward to that next week. But that is then, and this is now. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. Patrick is at The Swagger. Brett is at Hibbidi HIBBI2YBIBBARD. Drew is at XDruciferX. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on places. YouTube, probably one of them. A couple other ones, maybe. I don't know. Go look for us. But we're where you can find podcasts and other places. You can like, share, subscribe, click on buttons to your heart's content, and they will probably do positive things. But that's it. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.